The suitcase hit the wet ground first, not gently, not by accident. It slammed against the concrete outside the gate so hard that the baby inside Chioma's arms startled awake and began crying immediately. "Emeka, please," she screamed through the rain, banging desperately on the locked gate. "Please open the gate. The baby is cold." Inside the compound, the security light suddenly came on. Emeka appeared on the balcony upstairs wearing only a singlet and shorts, his face hard like stone. "Leave my house!" he shouted. The rain poured harder. Chioma tightened the wrapper around the baby and moved closer to the gate. "At least let us stay till morning." "I said leave!" The baby cried louder. Several neighbors had already opened their windows. An old woman from the next compound whispered, "Jesus." Chioma's voice broke completely. "Emeka, please? This is your child." Emeka laughed bitterly. "My child?" he snapped. "You should go and meet the man that gave you the pregnancy." The neighbors gasped quietly. Chioma froze. For a moment, even the rain seemed silent. Then Emeka shouted the words that would destroy everything. "That child is not mine." And suddenly the porch light went off. Chioma stood there shaking under the rain with a newborn baby in her arms and nowhere to go. But before this night ends, before this story reaches its final moment, the same man who threw his wife and child into the street would one day kneel before that same child, begging for forgiveness. If you enjoy emotional stories like this, take 2 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the channel because this story will leave you speechless. 3 years earlier, Emeka had loved Chioma with everything he had. Back then, they lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Surulere, where the ceiling leaked anytime rain fell too heavily. They did not have much money, but they had peace. Every morning before leaving for work, Emeka would pull Chioma close and kiss her forehead. "Just wait," he would always say. "One day, I'll give you a better life." Chioma would laugh softly. "I didn't marry you because of money. And that is why I will never let you suffer." At night, they would sit outside their building, eating roasted corn and talking about their future children. "I want a girl first," Chioma once said. "No," Emeka argued jokingly. "A boy first, somebody that will support me against you." "Traitor, my son will be loyal. You haven't even had him yet, and you're already using him against me." They laughed until neighbors complained about the noise. Those days felt simple, pure, safe. Then the problem started. After 1 year of marriage, there was no pregnancy. Then 2 years, then 3. At first, Emeka defended his wife fiercely anytime relatives spoke carelessly. But African families rarely stay silent for long. One Sunday afternoon, Emeka's mother came visiting. She watched Chioma serve food quietly before saying, "Emeka, your mates are already carrying children up and down." Chioma's hand froze slightly. Emeka sighed. "Mama? What?" his mother continued. "Am I lying? Marriage without children is incomplete." Chioma forced a smile. "We are trying, Mama." The older woman looked at her coldly. "Some women always say that." The room became uncomfortable immediately. That night after his mother left, Chioma cried in the bathroom. Emeka found her wiping tears. "Hey," he said softly, "ignore her. She hates me. She doesn't hate you. She thinks I'm barren." Emeka held her face gently. "Listen to me. Whether we have children now or later, you are my wife. Nobody can change that." Chioma hugged him tightly. But pressure changes people slowly. Family gatherings became torture. Everywhere they went, somebody always had advice. "Have you tried this prayer house? There is one prophet in Ibadan. Maybe she should stop working. Maybe the problem is spiritual. Maybe you should marry another wife." That last one always angered Emeka. But each time he defended Chioma, his relatives would exchange knowing looks like he was a fool refusing to face reality. Then one day, after almost 4 years of trying, Chioma collapsed in the kitchen. Emeka rushed her to the hospital in panic. The doctor smiled after the scan. "Congratulations," she said. "Your wife is pregnant." Emeka nearly screamed. "What? You're going to be parents?" Chioma burst into tears immediately. Emeka carried her right there inside the hospital. "I'm going to be a father," he shouted. That night was the happiest night of their marriage. Emeka bought food from 3 different restaurants. He danced around the house. He called everybody. "My wife is pregnant!" Even his mother sounded excited on the phone. Finally, peace returned. Or at least that was what Chioma believed. What she did not know was that another person had been watching quietly from the background. Emeka's cousin, Uche. Uche had always envied Emeka. While Emeka built a successful electronics business steadily, Uche struggled constantly. Deep down, he hated how respected Emeka had become in the family. And now Chioma's pregnancy made everything worse. One evening, Uche visited Emeka's shop. "So finally," Uche said, smiling. "You're becoming a father." Emeka grinned proudly. "God has done it." Uche nodded slowly. "Interesting timing, though." Emeka frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "Nothing. Forget it." "No, say what you want to say." Uche pretended reluctance. "Well, after 4 years, suddenly she gets pregnant immediately after starting that new job." Emeka's expression changed instantly. "What are you implying?" "Nothing. I'm just saying men should open their eyes these days." Emeka stood up angrily. "Don't ever disrespect my wife like that again." Uche raised both hands. "Calm down. I'm only looking out for you." Emeka ignored him completely after that conversation, but the seed had already entered his mind. Days later, Uche sent him screenshots anonymously from another number. The messages showed Chioma chatting romantically with an unknown man. At least that was how it appeared. Emeka stared at the phone for almost an hour. His chest burned. That evening, Chioma returned home smiling with snacks in her hand. "Baby, guess what?" The doctor said. "Who is Daniel?" Chioma stopped immediately. "What? Who is Daniel?" "I don't know any Daniel." Emeka showed her the screenshots. Chioma's face went pale. "These are fake." "Fake?" "Yes. You expect me to believe this?" "Emeka, somebody is trying to cause problems." "Then why is your number there?" "I don't know." For the first time in their marriage, Emeka walked out during an argument. Things changed after that. Slowly, painfully. Emeka became distant. Calls became shorter. Conversations became colder. Chioma would sit beside him on the couch, and he would shift away slightly. One night she held his hand gently. "Talk to me. I'm tired." "You haven't touched me in weeks." "I said I'm tired." "Do you believe I cheated on you?" Emeka looked away. The silence answered her. Chioma's eyes filled immediately. "After everything we've been through? You can't blame me for asking questions. I am your wife, and I am supposed to just ignore suspicious things." Chioma stood up angrily now. "So because of some stupid screenshots you suddenly forgot who I am?" Emeka shouted back immediately. "Then explain them." "I already did." "Poor explanation. You know me." "Do I?" The words hit Chioma like a slap. From that day, fear entered her heart. As her pregnancy grew, her loneliness grew too. Sometimes she would wake up at night and find Emeka scrolling silently through his phone with a dark expression. Sometimes he returned home late, smelling of alcohol. One evening at a family gathering, the situation exploded publicly. Chioma was serving drinks when one auntie laughed loudly. "We are praying this child finally resembles Emeka O." Several people laughed awkwardly. Chioma looked at Emeka immediately. He said nothing. That hurt her more than the joke itself. On the drive home, Chioma finally broke. "You let them insult me." "Nobody insulted you." "They mocked me." "You are overreacting." "No, you are changing." Emeka gripped the steering wheel harder. "Maybe because things are no longer adding up." Chioma turned toward him slowly. "Say it clearly." "You heard me." "Say it." Emeka finally exploded. "I don't know if that child is mine." Chioma screamed in disbelief. The car nearly swerved. "You cannot be serious." Then stop acting innocent. Chioma burst into tears immediately. You know what hurts, she cried. I would never do this to you, never. But Emeka's heart had already started hardening. Months later, Chioma went into labor unexpectedly at night. The delivery became complicated immediately. Doctors rushed around frantically.
We need to move quickly
Blood
now.
pressure
Prepare
dropped.
the vacuum.
The baby arrived premature and weak.
I cannot push anymore.
When Emeka
Yes, you
first
can.
saw the
One
child
more big
inside
push
the
now.
incubator, the baby looked tiny and pale from medical stress. Uche stood beside him quietly. That child doesn't look like anybody in our family. Emeka stared silently. His doubts deepened completely. Hospital bills piled up quickly. Chioma expected her husband to stand beside her. Instead, he became colder than ever. One afternoon, she watched nurses asking repeatedly for payment while Emeka ignored calls. When he finally arrived, she confronted him immediately. The nurses said the balance hasn't been paid. I'll handle it. When? Stop pressuring me. This is your child too. Emeka laughed bitterly. Is he? Chioma stared at him in horror. Even now? Even after seeing me almost die giving birth? Women can do anything. Chioma shook uncontrollably with anger. Then let's do a DNA test. The room became silent. Emeka's eyes narrowed. No. What? I said no. Why? I don't need any test to tell me what I already know. Chioma cried openly now. You are destroying this family. But Emeka had gone too far mentally to turn back. 2 weeks later came the night that changed everything. The rain started around 9 p.m. Chioma had just finished feeding the baby when Emeka entered the house drunk. His face already looked dangerous. You spoke to my mother today? Chioma frowned. She called me. What did you tell her? The truth. So now you want the whole family to think I'm wicked? You are acting wicked. Emeka smashed the glass in his hand against the wall suddenly. The baby started crying immediately. Don't provoke me tonight. Chioma carried the child quickly. You're drunk. I said, what did you tell my mother? That you abandoned us at the hospital. I abandoned you. You haven't even bonded with your son. He is not my son, Chioma screamed. Stop saying that. Emeka moved closer aggressively. Then tell me the truth. I already told you the truth. You cheated. I did not. You liar. No. Emeka grabbed the baby bag violently and threw it toward the door. Chioma froze. Then he grabbed her suitcase too. Get out. Chioma stared at him in shock. Emeka, get out of my house. You cannot be serious. Watch me. Where will I go with a newborn baby? Go to the father of your child. Chioma's entire body shook. Please don't do this. But Emeka had lost all control. He dragged the suitcase outside into the rain and threw it onto the ground. Then he opened the gate. Leave, the baby cried loudly. Neighbors began peeking through windows. Chioma begged desperately. Please, not like this. Emeka pointed outside. Get out. And minutes later, she stood under the rain carrying her baby while the gate closed in front of her forever. If your heart is already breaking for Chioma, comment below and tell me honestly, should she ever forgive Emeka after this? Chioma spent that first night inside a church corridor with her baby wrapped in wet cloth. The pastor's wife gave her dry clothes around midnight. Your husband did this? Chioma nodded weakly. The woman looked horrified. Over the next few months, Chioma suffered more than she had ever imagined possible. She moved between friends' houses. Some relatives blamed her secretly. Others advised her to apologize, even though she had done nothing wrong. She sold small snacks by the roadside, carrying her baby on her back. Some days, she ate only once. Some nights, she cried silently while watching her son sleep. But she refused to break. One afternoon, while stirring beans outside a small roadside stand, another woman asked, Where is your husband? Chioma smiled faintly. Gone. Will he come back? Chioma looked at her son playing nearby. I don't know anymore. Meanwhile, Emeka's life began falling apart slowly. At first, he acted tough publicly. She betrayed me. That child isn't mine. I did what any real man would do. But inside, peace disappeared from his life completely. He stopped sleeping properly. His business started struggling. Workers stole money, contracts failed, alcohol became his companion, and Uche kept fueling the fire. You did the right thing. Women like that deserve consequences. Forget her. Then one night, Emeka overheard something accidentally. Uche was drunk during a party. Laughing carelessly with another cousin, he said, "That fool still believes those screenshots were real." Emeka froze immediately. "What did you just say?" The room went silent. Uche's face changed instantly. "I was joking." Emeka grabbed his shirt violently. "What screenshots?" "Leave me. You forged them?" People rushed to separate them, but the damage was already done. That night, Emeka sat alone in darkness, replaying everything. Every accusation, every tear, every scream. His chest tightened painfully. For the first time, doubt entered his own certainty. The next morning, he drove straight to Chioma's old church shelter. She was gone. Months had passed. Nobody knew where she moved. Panic started entering him now. For weeks, he searched unsuccessfully. But pride still prevented him from going fully public. Then 3 years passed. 3 long years. Chioma transformed completely during that time. What started as a tiny roadside food stand became a proper buka near a busy junction. People loved her food. Customers lined up daily, and her son David became the center of her life. The boy was brilliant. Sharp eyes, quick smile, kind heart. Everybody loved him. One evening, David sat beside her while she counted money. "Mummy?" "Yes, baby?" "Why don't I have a daddy like other children?" Chioma's hand stopped moving. The question she had feared for years had finally arrived. She forced a smile gently. "You do have a daddy. Where is he?" Chioma looked away briefly. Far away. "Did he leave us?" Children always know more than adults expect. Chioma kissed his forehead softly. "Eat your food." But later that night, she cried alone after David slept. Elsewhere, Emeka looked nothing like the confident man he used to be. Stress had aged him badly. His business had reduced drastically, and guilt haunted him constantly, especially after secretly seeing David once from a distance months earlier. The boy looked exactly like him. The same eyes, the same smile, the same way of running. Emeka had nearly collapsed that day. Still, shame prevented him from approaching. Then fate intervened brutally. Emeka's younger sister Adaze suddenly became critically ill. Doctors discovered she needed urgent blood support due to a rare compatibility issue. Family members tested one after another. None matched properly. Panic spread through the family. His mother cried constantly. Then one doctor asked quietly, "Any close biological relatives outside immediate family?" Emeka remembered David instantly. His heart pounded violently. Could he really ask after everything he had done? But Adaze's condition worsened rapidly. Finally, swallowing his pride completely, Emeka went searching for Chioma publicly. When he arrived at her food shop and saw her again after 3 years, he almost could not breathe. Chioma looked stronger now, wiser, harder. Then he saw David beside her arranging soft drinks. The boy looked so much like him that nearby customers even noticed immediately. "Ah," one customer laughed casually. "Madam, your son resembles this man, oh." Nobody laughed. Chioma's expression darkened instantly. David looked curiously between them. "Mummy, who is he?" Emeka's eyes filled immediately. Chioma answered coldly. "A stranger." Those words shattered him. "Chioma, please. What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you. There is nothing to discuss." "Please." David tugged her hand. "Mummy?" "It's okay, baby. Go inside." The boy obeyed reluctantly. Emeka struggled to speak properly. "I know the truth now." Chioma laughed bitterly. 3 years later, I made a terrible mistake. A mistake. Tears entered her eyes immediately. You threw your newborn child into the rain. I know. You humiliated me. I know. You abandoned us when we had nothing. People nearby began watching quietly. Emeka lowered his head completely. I deserve every insult. Chioma stared at him with years of pain burning in her eyes. Why are you here? My sister is dying. Chioma's expression changed slightly despite herself. She needs blood urgently. Realization hit immediately. You want my son? Our son. Chioma laughed painfully again. No, don't suddenly change language now. Emeka fell to his knees right there publicly. Customers gasped. Please, he whispered brokenly. I'm begging you. Chioma stood frozen. The same man who once threw her out like trash was now kneeling before her. And somehow that hurt even more. Later that evening, after intense emotional conflict, Chioma agreed for testing. At the hospital, doctors confirmed two things almost immediately. First, David matched Adai's perfectly. Second, the DNA result finally arrived. 99.99%. David was Emeka's biological son. When the doctor handed him the paper, Emeka broke completely. Not ordinary crying. The kind of crying that comes from deep regret. He remembered Chioma begging under the rain. He remembered the baby crying. He remembered every cruel word he had spoken. And suddenly the full weight of what he destroyed crashed onto him. His mother wept bitterly after seeing the results. What have we done? Uche disappeared from family circles completely after the truth spread. Nobody defended him anymore. But for Emeka, punishment had already become internal, because now he had the truth, and it was too late to erase the damage. Days later, after Adaizi stabilized, Emeka visited Chioma's house quietly with gifts for David. The boy opened the door halfway. Yes? Emeka smiled nervously. Hi. David stared curiously. You're the hospital man. Emeka almost cried instantly at those words. Yes. Why are you here? Before Emeka could answer, Chioma appeared behind him. What do you want? I came to see him. Chioma hesitated. David looked between both adults carefully. Then suddenly he asked the question. Mummy, is he my daddy? Silence filled the room. Chioma closed her eyes briefly. Emeka looked terrified. Finally, Chioma answered softly. Yes. David blinked several times, then looked back at Emeka. Why did you leave us? Simple question. But it crushed Emeka more than any insult ever could. The man could barely speak. I made a terrible mistake. Did Mummy offend you? No. Did I offend you? Emeka started crying openly now. No, son? Then why? Chioma looked away because even she was close to tears again. Emeka knelt slowly before the boy. Because I was foolish. David studied him quietly with innocent eyes. Children do not understand adult cruelty fully. That is what makes moments like this painful. Over the following weeks, Emeka kept visiting carefully. Not demanding, not forcing, just trying. Sometimes David allowed him sit beside him during homework. Sometimes they played football outside. Each moment healed and hurt simultaneously. One evening, while kicking ball together, David laughed suddenly after scoring. The sound hit Emeka deeply because it sounded exactly like his own childhood laughter. For a moment he turned away emotionally. David noticed immediately. Are you crying? Emeka wiped his face quickly. No. You're crying. Small. David walked closer innocently. Mummy says people cry when their heart is hurting. Emeka looked at his son quietly. Yes, he whispered. She's right. But rebuilding trust proved harder with Chioma. One night after David slept, Emeka finally asked the question he feared most. Can you ever forgive me? Chioma stared at him for a long time. Then she spoke calmly. You think saying sorry can erase sleeping in church with a newborn baby? Emeka lowered his eyes. You think saying sorry can erase watching my child suffer because his father rejected him? I know. No, you don't. No. Her voice cracked slightly now. You were not there when he had fever, and I had no money. Emeka's tears returned instantly. You were not there when children mocked him for not having a father. Every word stabbed deeply. Chioma shook her head slowly. You destroyed something inside me, Emeka. The room became painfully silent. Then, surprisingly, she added softly, But despite everything, I never poisoned him against you. Emeka looked up immediately. Why? Because children should not carry adult bitterness. That sentence broke him completely again. Before leaving that night, Emeka stopped at the door. I will spend the rest of my life making this right. Chioma did not answer. Months later, during David's school event, parents gathered happily around the field. Emeka arrived quietly carrying snacks. Some fathers were playing football with their children. David ran excitedly toward him. Daddy, come! The word nearly stopped Emeka's heart. He looked at Chioma instinctively. She said nothing. Slowly, cautiously, painfully, healing had begun. Not perfect healing, not movie-style magic. The scars remained. Some nights Chioma still remembered the rain. Some mornings Emeka still hated himself for what he had done. But one thing became clear. Love can survive many things. Pride can destroy everything. And sometimes the deepest punishment in life is realizing too late that the people you pushed away were the people who truly loved you. So before you judge too quickly, before you allow outsiders poison your mind against the people standing beside you, remember Emeka. Because one moment of suspicion cost him 3 years with his own child, and not everybody gets a second chance. If this story touched you emotionally, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and comment below. Do you think Chioma truly forgave Emeka, or did she only forgive him for David's sake?